Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Six Path Weeb. Today's topic is, what if Naruko returned from the future and destroyed Konoha, Part 2. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits go to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's begin. Naruko gently adjusted the hood of her cloak as she stepped off the ship she had traveled on. She lifted a hand to her face, making sure her mask was in place to hide the whisker-like marks on her cheeks. Taking a quiet breath, she looked around. The port town before her seemed tired, as if it had been waiting a long time for something better to come along. Only a few ships rested at the docks, and many of the buildings showed signs of wear. Rust marked the walls, and faded paint told stories of brighter days. As Naruko walked toward her meeting point, her steps slowed. She noticed people sitting along the streets, some asking softly for help, others simply watching the world go by. Families huddled together, doing their best to stay strong. The sight made her heart feel heavy. She remembered her own difficult days growing up and wished she could help everyone at once. High above, she noticed a few ninja moving across the rooftops, their headbands marking them as shinobi of the hidden mist. Naruko observed them quietly. She had always been good at sensing how others felt, a skill she had learned from years of paying close attention to people around her. Though the ninja moved with discipline, their eyes told a different story. Many looked troubled, their glances drifting toward the struggling townspeople below. It seemed they, too, wished things could be different. Naruko wondered what had caused such a change in this place, which she had once heard was led with kindness. Suddenly, Naruko paused. From somewhere nearby, she heard a faint, trembling sound, someone crying. She turned her head slightly, focusing. The sound was soft, but filled with worry and sadness. Naruko's expression softened. She had never been someone who could ignore a cry for help. Quietly, she stepped into a narrow alley. After making sure no one was watching, she moved with swift grace and reappeared on a nearby rooftop. Kneeling down, she used a special technique to blend into her surroundings, becoming nearly invisible. Carefully, she followed the sound. It led her to an old, quiet warehouse. The building looked forgotten, its windows dusty and dim. Naruko approached silently and peered through a second-story window. Inside, she saw a young girl sitting alone, hugging her knees. Her clothes were worn, and her face was streaked with tears. She looked frightened, as if she had been through far too much on her own. Naruko's heart ached. There were no signs of danger nearby, but the girl's sadness was clear. Naruko took a steady breath, reminding herself to stay calm. She couldn't fix everything in the world at once, but she could help this one person. And sometimes, that was where hope began. With quiet determination, Naruko prepared to step in, ready to offer comfort, kindness, and a chance for things to get better. Naruko moved quietly through the misty forest, her golden hair tucked beneath her hood as the soft wind whispered through the trees. She had been traveling for days, following a feeling deep in her heart that someone nearby needed help. As she approached a small, worn-down cabin, she heard soft crying from inside. Naruko's expression softened immediately. Someone is scared, she thought. Without hesitation, she gently opened the door and stepped inside. There, she saw a young girl sitting on a bed, trembling and holding her arms close to herself. The room felt heavy with fear, but Naruko kept her movements slow and calm so she wouldn't frighten her further. The girl looked up, startled. Please. Don't hurt me," she whispered, her voice shaking. Naruko quickly pulled down her hood so the girl could see her face. She offered the warmest, kindest smile she could. "I'm not going to hurt you," Naruko said gently. "I'm here to help." The girl hesitated, her wide eyes searching Naruko's face. How do I know I can trust you?" Naruko nodded thoughtfully. "That's a fair question," she said softly. "You don't have to trust me right away. But I promise I will do everything I can to make you safe." There was something sincere in Naruko's voice, steady and comforting like a calm breeze. Slowly, the girl relaxed just a little. Naruko knelt beside her. "I have some medicine with me. May I help take care of your injuries?" After a brief pause, the girl gave a small, cautious nod. Naruko carefully took out a scroll from her pouch and unrolled it. With a soft puff, it revealed neatly packed medical supplies, bandages, herbal ointments, and clean cloths. "I learned how to make these myself," Naruko explained with a small smile. "They help people heal faster." She worked gently, applying the ointment to the girl's bruises and wrapping the cuts with care. Her hands were steady, and she made sure every movement was slow so the girl wouldn't feel afraid. It might sting a little at first, Naruko said kindly, but it will feel better soon. The girl nodded, watching in quiet surprise as the discomfort eased. After a while, Naruko finished and sat back, looking relieved. There. That should help. The girl flexed her fingers and shifted slightly. It doesn't hurt as much anymore, she said softly, a hint of wonder in her voice. Naruko smiled brightly. Good. That means it's working. She stood and offered her hand. Can you try standing? I'll help you. The girl hesitated, then placed her hand in Naruko's. Slowly, she stood, but her legs wobbled. Naruko gently supported her. Easy, I've got you. The girl looked up at her, her fear now replaced with something new, hope. Would you like me to carry you somewhere safe? Naruko asked kindly. I know a place where you can rest and be taken care of. The girl nodded, this time without hesitation. Naruko carefully lifted her, making sure she was comfortable. As they stepped out of the cabin and into the soft glow of the evening sky, the mist seemed to part around them. Naruko walked forward with steady determination. Because to her, being strong wasn't just about fighting, it was about helping others feel safe again. And she would always choose to be that kind of hero. The woman looked at her with a trace of uncertainty, gently biting her lip. It was clear she still felt uneasy because of what had happened earlier, and Naruko understood why. She did not rush her. Instead, she stood quietly, giving the woman all the time she needed. You promise you won't do anything? The woman asked softly. Naruko gave a warm, reassuring smile. I promise. After a moment, the woman closed her eyes, taking a steady breath, and then nodded. With great care, Naruko reached into her pouch and pulled out a soft, warm cloak. She wrapped it gently around the woman to keep her comfortable. Then, with steady arms, she lifted her carefully, making sure her head rested safely against her shoulder. Naruko created a shadow clone with a simple focus of her energy, silently asking it to tidy up the area so no one else would be troubled by what had happened there. The clone nodded and set to work, while Naruko stepped outside into the cool air. The woman in her arms began to relax, her breathing slowing as she felt safe at last. The gentle rhythm of Naruko's steps and her calm presence helped ease her worries. Just before drifting off to sleep, the woman looked up. I don't even know your name, she murmured. Naruko glanced down, her bright blue eyes kind and steady. She smiled softly. It's Naruko. With that, the woman closed her eyes, comforted. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Al let out a long sigh as she waited. She had been standing watch for quite some time, expecting someone to arrive and help them, but there was still no sign. In her experience, delays could mean many things. Perhaps the traveler had been delayed, lost, or simply taken a wrong turn. Still, Al preferred punctuality, and she crossed her arms, tapping her fingers lightly as she waited. A gentle nudge from one of her companions drew her attention. Looking up, Al noticed a figure approaching. The person wore a long cloak with a hood, making it difficult to see their face. In their arms, they carried someone carefully. Al observed quietly, staying alert but calm. As the figure came closer, she spoke, her tone measured. You look like you've come a long way. The cloaked figure gave a small, friendly chuckle. I heard there were opportunities here and decided to see for myself. There was something reassuring about the voice. Al relaxed slightly. You're later than expected, she said, though not unkindly. Sorry, the figure replied. I was helping someone. Al glanced at the person being carried and understood. Her expression softened. Well, you made it. That's what matters. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Naruko gently placed the resting woman onto a bed in a quiet medical room. She adjusted the blanket to keep her warm, making sure she was comfortable before stepping back. After a final glance to ensure everything was all right, Naruko stepped out into the hallway where Al was waiting. Together, they walked through the base, passing rooms filled with supplies and people working together peacefully. Eventually, they reached a door at the end of the hall. Come in, a calm voice called from inside. Naruko entered and found a poised woman standing near a desk. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her presence both gentle and strong. Her auburn hair fell neatly down her back, and her expression reflected both kindness and determination. Ow, the woman said, this must be the one who came to help. Ow nodded. Yes. This is the support we were sent. The woman stepped forward and extended her hand with a welcoming smile. Thank you for coming. We truly appreciate any help we can get. May I ask your name? Naruko shook her hand with a friendly grin. Naruko. It's nice to meet you. The woman smiled back warmly. I'm Mei. I'm glad you're here. There was a brief moment of quiet understanding between them before Mei continued, her tone becoming focused but still kind. There's much to do, but we'll take it one step at a time. For now, I'd like to explain the situation and see how you can help. Naruko nodded, her expression bright and determined. I'm ready. And with that, a new chapter of cooperation, kindness, and hope quietly began. Takane Nobata had lived a life that most people would describe as ordinary. She had trained as a shinobi in the Hidden Mist Village, learning discipline, teamwork, and perseverance. Though she had never been the strongest or the fastest, she always did her best and stayed loyal to her village. Her long black hair and calm, steady eyes reflected a person who preferred quiet effort over attention. One day, during a mission that didn't go as planned, Takane found herself separated from her team. Exhausted and unsure of what would come next, she closed her eyes and wished, just once, for a chance to start over and do something meaningful. Far away, another young shinobi was preparing for a mission of her own. Her name was Naruko. Naruko was known for her bright spirit, boundless energy, and a heart that believed in second chances. She had recently created a very special technique called the Shinsei Henge, or true transformation. Unlike a simple disguise, this transformation allowed her to truly take on another form, voice, appearance, and even presence, so completely that no one could tell the difference. But Naruko didn't see this ability as a trick. To her, it was a way to understand others, to walk in their shoes, and to help bring peace where there was confusion. On this particular mission, Naruko transformed into Takane, not to deceive for harm, but to quietly enter a guarded place and gather information that could help prevent further conflict between groups who no longer trusted each other. As she approached the large gates, she walked slowly, pretending to be tired from a long journey. The guards noticed her and quickly came to help. What happened? One of them asked kindly, supporting her as she leaned forward. Naruko, still in Takane's form, spoke softly. I got separated. I'm just glad to be back. The guards didn't question her further. They brought her inside, offering water and a place to rest. Naruko smiled gently to herself. Even in places built for defense, kindness could still be found. That night, instead of causing chaos as originally planned, Naruko made a different choice. She quietly observed everything, the routines, the conversations, the worries people carried. She realized that many inside the base were simply following orders, just like Takane had done her whole life. They weren't enemies, they were people trying to do what they thought was right. So Naruko did something unexpected. She left a message. Before slipping away, she wrote a note and placed it where it would be found in the morning. Understanding is stronger than fear. There is another way. Then, under the soft glow of the moon, Naruko returned to her team. When they asked if she had completed the mission, she nodded, but her eyes held a thoughtful light. We don't always need to break things to fix them, she said. Sometimes, we just need to help people see differently. Her team didn't fully understand at first, but they trusted her. And somewhere, deep in the quiet halls of that guarded place, Takane's story, once ordinary, had inspired something new. Not through battle, but through compassion. Naruko, with her bright smile and unwavering belief in people, continued her journey, not just as a shinobi, but as someone who brought hope wherever she went. Naruko opened her eyes just as the door clicked softly shut. She sat up in her bed and blinked a few times, letting her vision adjust. The room around her was calm and quiet, filled with neatly arranged beds and soft curtains. It looked like a medical ward, the kind where people came to rest and recover. She noticed she had been changed into a simple white patient robe. Carefully, she looked around to make sure no one needed help. Everyone else seemed to be sleeping peacefully. With a small, determined nod, she slipped out of bed. Naruko placed her hand over her heart and whispered a quick, grateful thank you for being safe. Then, focusing her energy, she gently released her disguise technique. Her true form shimmered into view, her bright hair catching the soft light. Pulling a cloak over her shoulders, she tiptoed toward the door. Just as she reached it, the door opened again. Naruko froze, but only for a second. Her instincts were quick, but instead of reacting harshly, she stepped back and lowered her hand. A doctor entered, carrying a tray of supplies. The woman looked surprised to see Naruko awake. Oh. You should be resting, the doctor said kindly. Naruko hesitated, then smiled sheepishly. I feel a lot better now. Thank you for taking care of everyone here. The doctor's expression softened. That's good to hear. Still, Try not to wander too much, alright? I will, Naruko replied gently. As the doctor moved to check on the other patients, Naruko quietly slipped out of the room. She made sure the door closed softly behind her so no one would be disturbed. The hallway stretched ahead, dim but peaceful. Naruko remembered the mission she had been given, not to harm, but to help her team enter safely and complete their task without causing trouble. She took a deep breath and focused. Using a careful invisibility technique taught by her mentor, she moved silently along the corridor. She stayed out of sight, choosing paths where she wouldn't interrupt anyone. When she reached a staircase, she climbed lightly, her steps almost soundless. On the second floor, she paused by a window. Outside, she could see the tall towers and the large gate her team was waiting near. She needed to open it, but without causing panic or confusion. Naruko spotted a small control mechanism nearby. 2 guards stood by the tower, chatting quietly and watching the surroundings. She observed them for a moment, then created 2 shadow clones. The clones transformed to resemble the guards and gently approached them. Hey, one clone said in a friendly tone, you're needed downstairs for a quick check. The guards looked puzzled but nodded. All right, we'll be back in a moment. Once they left, Naruko's clones took their place, keeping watch just as the guards had been. Naruko smiled, relieved everything was going smoothly. She moved quickly to the gate mechanism and carefully turned the lever. With a low rumble, the gate began to open. Outside, her team noticed immediately. The gate is opening, one of them said. Their leader nodded. Then she's done it. Let's move. Back inside, Naruko watched from a hidden spot as her teammates entered safely. She felt a small spark of pride, but also a sense of calm responsibility. She had completed her part without hurting anyone, just as she had hoped. Later that evening, Naruko sat quietly with a cup of warm tea instead of anything stronger. The gentle steam curled upward as she held the cup in both hands. She wasn't troubled, just thoughtful. A voice spoke beside her. Mind if I join you? Naruko looked up and smiled as Mei sat down next to her. You did well today, Mei said. Naruko nodded slowly. I was nervous. But I'm glad I found a way to help without causing harm. Mei smiled. That's a strength, not a weakness. Naruko looked at her tea, then back at Mei, her eyes bright with quiet determination. I want to keep doing things that way. Protecting people. And helping, whenever I can. Mei raised her cup slightly. Then I think you're already on the right path. Naruko smiled, feeling lighter. The mission was over, but her journey, her way of doing things, was just beginning. Naruko rubbed the back of her head as a sheepish smile crossed her face. Sorry. I meant my sensei, Jiraiya. Mei's eyes widened in surprise. You mean the Jiraiya? Of the legendary 3? At Naruko's nod, Mei grew thoughtful. When she had first heard that only one ninja would be sent to help, she hadn't expected much. Yet the bright, determined young woman before her had already proven herself capable in clever and careful missions, helping their village in ways that brought hope rather than harm. Now, hearing who had trained her, everything made sense. Realizing she had drifted off, Mei blinked and smiled. I'm sorry, please continue. Naruko returned the smile warmly. For some reason, she felt at ease speaking with Mei, as though she could trust her. It was at the start of the mission, she said. I had just gotten out of the medical room when the door opened. I don't remember everything clearly. I just reacted on instinct. The next thing I knew, I was helping someone who had fallen and couldn't breathe properly. It all happened so fast. You looked into her eyes, didn't you? Mei asked gently. Naruko nodded. Yes. I saw how scared she was. And I realized something important in that moment. She paused, choosing her words carefully. People who heal others carry such kindness and strength. It made me think. Maybe that's what I admire most. Mei listened closely, her expression soft. I've never really liked fighting, Naruko admitted. When I was younger, I actually wanted to become a doctor. Someone who helps people instead of hurting them. Then why didn't you? Mei asked with curiosity. Naruko sighed lightly. I'm not sure. Maybe things just changed. My parents were both ninja, and I guess that path found me before I could fully choose another. She gave a small, thoughtful smile. I only learned about them recently, though. The third Hokage used to tell me stories about brave people who protected the village. I didn't know he was talking about my parents at the time. Mei frowned slightly. That sounds a bit like he was guiding you toward becoming a ninja. Maybe, Naruko said. But I don't think he meant any harm. He cared about the village, and about me, in his own way. She looked down for a moment, then continued more quietly. Growing up wasn't always easy. Some people kept their distance from me because of things I couldn't control. But I decided that instead of letting that make me bitter, I would become someone who protects others. Someone who proves that kindness matters. Mei studied her thoughtfully. Your parents must have been remarkable. Naruko smiled. I think so too. Then she added softly, I'd prefer to keep that part private for now, if that's okay. Of course, Mei agreed without hesitation. You have my word. Thank you, Naruko said. For a moment, the two sat in comfortable silence. Mei then asked, so what keeps you going? What makes you continue on this path? Naruko's expression brightened. The people I care about. That's the reason for everything. If I can protect them, if I can make their lives a little brighter, then it's all worth it. Mei smiled warmly. So you protect your precious people? Naruko laughed softly at the phrase. Yeah. That's exactly it. Mei tilted her head playfully. Then since you're here, does that mean I'm one of your precious people too? Naruko blinked in surprise, then grinned. Well. She tapped her chin thoughtfully. I suppose that depends. On what? Mei asked, raising an eyebrow. Naruko stood and offered her hand with a cheerful smile. On whether you'll let me be one of yours too. Mei laughed lightly as she took Naruko's hand and stood. I think that can be arranged, she said. But only if you walk me back. It's getting late. Naruko gave a playful bow. It would be my honor. As they stepped outside together, Mei added with a teasing tone, you know, some people might get a little jealous seeing us like this. Naruko chuckled. Let them. I'm just here to make friends, and protect the ones who matter. Mei smiled at that, and together they walked on, their conversation drifting into lighter topics under the calm evening sky. Mei giggled as she and Naruko walked down the hall together, their footsteps echoing softly. A gentle, companionable silence settled between them. Just as Naruko had guessed, a few people glanced their way with curious or puzzled expressions. Some seemed surprised to see the cheerful newcomer walking so comfortably beside their leader. What Naruko hadn't expected, though, was that a few of the women looked at Mei with raised eyebrows, as if quietly wondering something. Naruko tilted her head, puzzled. It's because they're jealous, Mei said lightly. Huh? Naruko blinked, turning to her with a confused expression. Mei covered her mouth as she laughed softly. Word has spread about how you helped someone who needed support soon after you arrived. People admire kindness, Naruko. It makes you noticeable. But they don't even know me, Naruko said, scratching her head. Then her eyes widened with realization. Wait. Are you saying I have admirers already? That's fast. Mei laughed more openly this time, her bright voice filling the hallway. A few people glanced over, surprised, before returning to their own conversations. Well, Mei said, calming into a soft smile, kind actions tend to travel quickly. And you've made quite an impression. Naruko chuckled. I didn't expect to find that kind of attention in a place like this. The two continued walking until they reached Mei's door. Mei turned to her with a graceful smile. Thank you for walking with me. Naruko grinned and gave a playful bow. The pleasure was all mine. It's not every day I get to spend time with someone as wonderful as you. Charmer, Mei murmured, though a faint blush colored her cheeks. I'm just honest, Naruko replied, smiling warmly. She gave a small, respectful nod before stepping back. I'll see you later, Mei-chan. Mei's blush deepened slightly at the affectionate nickname. As Naruko walked away, Mei watched her go, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. Naruko namikaze. She thought. You really are full of surprises. Dash. Later, Naruko stood in Mei's office, looking around at the others who had gathered. Some she knew, others she had only seen in passing. Over the past few months, she had worked alongside many teams, learning, helping, and building friendships along the way. She noticed Ao nearby and gave him a small wave. He nodded back, a familiar and reassuring presence. Chojuro stood quietly off to the side, adjusting his glasses. Though shy, he always tried his best, and Naruko respected that about him. Naruko then glanced at Mei, who looked more serious than usual. That alone was enough to make Naruko focus. As you all know, Mei began, her voice calm but firm, we've made great progress recently. Our teamwork has helped many people and brought hope where it was needed. Everyone in the room listened closely. However, Mei continued, we've received information that others may come here soon. Because of this, I'm considering moving everyone somewhere safer. A few people exchanged worried looks. So we're leaving? Ao asked, crossing his arms. Ao, Mei said sweetly, though her tone carried a clear warning. Yes, I understand, Ao replied quickly, straightening up. Naruko smiled slightly at the familiar exchange before stepping forward. Mei-chan, she said gently. Mei looked at her. Yes, Naruko? Naruko placed a small, uniquely shaped kunai on the table. It gleamed softly under the light. I think we have another option, she said. Instead of running, we can protect everyone and bring this situation to a peaceful end. The room fell quiet. That's a big idea, Mei said, studying her carefully. Do you have something in mind? Naruko nodded, her blue eyes bright with determination and kindness. I do, she said. It's time to remind everyone what hope and courage can do, together. She smiled, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence, the kind that made others believe things could truly get better. And for the first time since the meeting began, the room didn't feel tense anymore. It felt hopeful. Naruko stood quietly at the edge of the misty plain, her bright eyes scanning the silvery fog that drifted across the land of water. In this place, where the air always seemed wrapped in gentle clouds, it was hard to see very far. Still, Naruko didn't mind. She had learned to listen as much as she looked, the whisper of the breeze, the soft rustle of movement, the steady rhythm of her own breath. Around her, people worked together, carefully setting up rows of unusual three-pronged kunai. They weren't weapons meant to harm, but tools for something special, something Naruko hoped would finally bring peace to the troubled region. Many of the villagers glanced at the kunai with curiosity, wondering how such simple objects could help solve such a big problem. Naruko smiled softly. She knew they trusted her, even if they didn't fully understand her plan yet. Are you sure you want to do this? Came a warm voice from behind. Naruko turned and saw Mei approaching, her expression calm but thoughtful. Naruko's smile widened. She had grown used to Mei's presence, it felt steady, like a lighthouse in the fog. Yes, Naruko said gently. Things have been uncertain for too long. It's time we try something new. Something that helps everyone. Mei studied her for a moment, then nodded. You always think of others first. That's what makes people believe in you. Naruko tilted her head, a little embarrassed but still smiling. I just want everyone to feel safe and happy. That's all. Mei's eyes softened. That's more than enough. Just then, Ao walked over, adjusting his glasses as he looked at the preparations. Everything is nearly ready, he said. The others are in position, just like you asked. Naruko gave a grateful nod. Thank you, Ao. This couldn't happen without everyone working together. Ao crossed his arms, though a small smile crept onto his face. Well, it's not every day we get to try something this unusual. I'm curious to see how it turns out. Naruko looked back at the field. The mist seemed to glow faintly as the light shifted above, as if the land itself was waiting. Everyone, Naruko called out clearly, her voice steady and kind, get ready. The group responded at once, lifting the special kunai and holding them with care. There was no fear in their movements, only trust and quiet excitement. Naruko raised her hand, her heart beating with hope. She had practiced this many times, learning how to use her unique ability to connect places in an instant. If it worked, it wouldn't just solve today's problem, it would open a path for understanding and cooperation. She took a deep breath. Now, let's begin. At her signal, the kunai were gently launched across the misty field, disappearing into the fog like shooting stars. Naruko focused, her energy flowing calmly as she prepared to guide them. Instead of chaos, there was a sense of harmony, like a puzzle coming together. Moments later, soft lights began to appear in the distance, marking where each kunai had landed. Paths formed between them, safe and clear, creating a network that allowed people to move quickly and meet one another without getting lost or afraid. The villagers watched in awe. It's beautiful, someone whispered. Naruko lowered her hand, her face glowing with quiet pride. Now no one has to feel alone out here, she said. We can find each other, help each other. And maybe even become friends. Mei stepped beside her, smiling warmly. You didn't just change the field, she said. You changed how people see it. Ao nodded in agreement. And maybe how they see each other, too. Naruko looked out across the glowing mist, her heart full. For the first time in a long while, the land didn't feel uncertain. It felt hopeful. The moment unfolded so quickly that many of the shinobi could barely keep up with it. One moment, they were moving together across a wide, open clearing, hoping to reach their destination before anyone noticed them. The next moment, A surprising flurry of kunai appeared in the air, not dangerous or aimed to hurt, but clearly meant to stop them in their tracks. The tools landed neatly across the field, spaced far apart, almost like markers in a game. The shinobi paused, puzzled. These were unlike any kunai they had seen before. Then came the flashes. Soft bursts of golden light shimmered across the clearing, appearing here, then there, then everywhere at once. Each time a flash appeared, a group of shinobi found themselves gently tapped on the shoulder or lightly nudged off balance, never harmed, just surprised and clearly tagged out of whatever challenge was underway. At the center of it all was Naruto Uzumaki, or rather, Naruko. With bright determination in her eyes and a playful grin on her face, Naruko moved from place to place in those golden flashes. To anyone watching, it looked like magic. One instant she was here, the next she was somewhere else entirely. She was practicing a special technique she had only recently begun to understand. Each kunai on the field acted like a tiny anchor, helping her move instantly between them. To Naruko, time felt slower during each jump, giving her just enough space to think, plan, and act. Still, it wasn't easy. Each flash left her slightly dizzy, and she had to concentrate carefully to keep track of everything around her. Her teacher had warned her that using the technique too much too soon could be exhausting, and Naruko was beginning to understand why. Even so, she kept going. Above the clearing, a group of shinobi watched in amazement. "Is she everywhere at once?" one of them whispered. "It feels like it," another replied, eyes wide with wonder. In truth, Naruko was simply moving very, very fast, faster than most people could even imagine. Within minutes, the entire field had gone quiet. Everyone who had been part of the exercise was now sitting or standing off to the side, smiling, catching their breath, and chatting about what had just happened. Naruko appeared once more in a final golden flash, landing lightly on her feet. She bent forward slightly, hands on her knees, breathing steadily. "That was harder than I thought," she admitted with a small laugh. Just then, another figure stepped forward, a calm and composed shinobi who had been watching carefully the entire time. "That was quite an impressive display," he said kindly. "You've learned a great deal in a short time." Naruko straightened, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I still have a lot to figure out," she replied. "Sometimes it feels like the technique is faster than my own thoughts." "That's part of the journey," the shinobi said with a gentle smile. "Strength isn't just about speed, it's about understanding, balance, and patience." Naruko nodded thoughtfully. Across the field, Mei approached, having observed everything as well. "You handled everyone without anyone getting hurt," she said warmly. "That's not just skill, that's care." Naruko smiled at that. "I just wanted to do it right," she said. "If I'm going to learn something this powerful, I want to use it in a way that helps people." The breeze moved softly through the clearing, carrying a feeling of calm after the excitement. Naruko looked out over the field of kunai, each one a reminder of what she had just accomplished, and how much more she could still become. "Next time," she said with quiet determination, "I'll do even better." And with that, the golden light faded, leaving behind not just a cleared field, but the beginning of something truly special. Naruko glanced across the open field just in time to see Mei Terumi hurrying toward her, concern written clearly on her face. At the same moment, Yagura noticed Mei too. Without hesitation, Naruko dashed forward and gently guided Mei out of the way, making sure she was safe. "Careful," Naruko said, her voice steady despite her quick movements. Mei caught her balance and nodded. "Thank you. Are you all right?" Naruko smiled, though she was breathing a little hard. "I'm okay. But we need to think of something together." Yagura stood at a distance, surrounded by a strange and restless energy that made the air shimmer. Instead of rushing in, Mei stepped forward calmly, forming a series of hand seals. A soft mist spread across the field, warm and glowing faintly, creating a protective space that kept everyone at a safe distance. "I can keep things steady for a while," Mei said. "Do you have an idea?" Naruko nodded. "Just give me a little time." She created a shadow clone, and together they focused, shaping a swirling sphere of light in her hand. It wasn't meant to harm, but to calm the wild energy around Yagura. The sphere shimmered brighter and brighter, like a tiny star. "Mei, step back," Naruko called. Mei leapt away just as Naruko moved forward, her feet barely touching the ground. With a gentle but determined motion, she released the glowing sphere. It expanded into a soft dome of light around Yagura, and instead of chaos, a peaceful stillness filled the space. The restless energy slowly faded, dissolving into the air like morning mist under sunlight. When it was over, Naruko exhaled and sank to her knees, tired but relieved. Mei hurried over and helped her sit comfortably, letting Naruko rest her head on her lap. You really gave it your all, Mei said softly, brushing a few strands of blonde hair from Naruko's face. Naruko gave a small laugh. I guess I did. Is everyone safe? Mei looked around at the villagers who were now approaching, smiling and unharmed. Everyone's safe. Thanks to you. Naruko closed her eyes for a moment, a peaceful smile forming. That's what matters. 6 months later, the Hidden Mist village was brighter than it had been in years. Mei had become the new Mizukage and worked tirelessly to rebuild, bringing people together with kindness and determination. Naruko stayed to help, creating dozens of shadow clones to assist with repairs, planting gardens, and even helping rebuild homes. The villagers admired her cheerful spirit and endless energy. On quieter days, Naruko and Mei would take walks through the village, share meals, or sit together watching plays at the newly built theater. They laughed often, enjoying the calm after difficult times. But one afternoon, Naruko sat quietly in the Mizukage's office, her usual grin softer than usual. It's time for me to go, she said gently. Mei looked up, surprised. So soon? Naruko nodded. I still have a lot to learn. There are people out there I want to protect, and I need to grow stronger, not just in power, but in understanding too. Mei smiled, though there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. Then promise you'll visit. Naruko reached into her pouch and handed Mei a special 3-pronged kunai. Whenever you need me, I'll come. Just don't overuse it, alright? Mei held it carefully, her expression softening. I will treasure it. Naruko stood, stretching slightly, then grinned. And I'll treasure all the time we spent here. Mei stepped closer and gently hugged her. Naruko returned the hug warmly, both of them sharing a quiet moment of friendship and trust. Take care of yourself, Mei said. You too, Naruko replied. And don't work too hard. With that, Naruko stepped back, gave one last bright smile, and set off on her journey, ready for new adventures, carrying with her the warmth of the bond she had made. Naruko looked up to see Jiraiya standing at the entrance to the misty village. His arms were crossed, and a playful smile rested on his face. Ready, kid? He asked warmly. You bet, Uro-sensei. Naruko replied with a bright grin as she stepped forward with confidence. Jiraiya caught up to her easily and walked beside her. You know, you've become quite well known lately, he said. Yeah, I've heard, Naruko answered, brushing a strand of golden hair from her face. They say you helped a whole village using just one clever technique, he continued, clearly impressed. Naruko shrugged a little. I just did what felt right. People needed help, and I couldn't ignore that. Jiraiya nodded, his expression softening. That reminds me of someone. Your father was just like that. Always thinking of others first. Naruko smiled gently. Then I'll take that as a good thing. They walked together in comfortable silence, listening to the distant sound of water flowing through the village canals. After a moment, Jiraiya chuckled to himself. And I hear you've made a new friend here too, he added with a teasing tone. Naruko paused and gave him a slightly embarrassed look. Some things are meant to stay private, sensei. Jiraiya raised his hands with a laugh. All right. I'll behave. Naruko couldn't help but laugh as well, the tension melting into the cool air around them. The two continued walking, their footsteps light and easy. Meanwhile, in the Mizukage's office, Mei sat by the window, gazing out at her village with a peaceful smile. The gentle mist curled through the streets, giving everything a calm, dreamy glow. On her desk lay a neatly folded letter. She picked it up again and reread it, her eyes soft. Dear Mei-chan. I'm really glad we met. I feel like we've become good friends, and I hope we can continue to learn from each other. I've left you something to read that I think you'll find interesting. It might help us understand each other's worlds better. Take care. Naruko. Mei smiled warmly. What a thoughtful girl, she said quietly. She opened the book Naruko had mentioned and began to read, curious and pleased. Outside, the village remained calm and bright, filled with the promise of new friendships and shared understanding. And somewhere nearby, Naruko walked forward with determination, ready for whatever adventures awaited her next, with kindness in her heart and a smile that could light up even the mistiest day. Dear YouTube family. This is all for now. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and keeps the journey going. Thank you for watching. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.